Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. It is time 1:03. Due to emergency conditions, this meeting was conducted through telephone or video conferencing. But remembered, it is a so I call to order this meeting, and I will ask Madam Clerk if you could make a roll call. I appreciate it.
At this time, I'd like to conduct a roll call of our commission members to confirm our quorum of participants. County Judge KP George.
Yes, I am present. I'm here.
County Tax Assessor Collector Carmen Turner.
Yes, I'm here.
Linda Howell, Republican Party Chair.
Here.
Cynthia Ginyard, Democratic Party Chair.
Here.
Let the record show that I, Laura Richard, County Clerk and Vice Chair, am also present and taking minutes of the meeting. In addition, I'd like to confirm our ancillary attendees. Elections Administrator John Oldham.
Here.
County Attorney Bridget Smith Lawson and office representatives.
Present.
District Attorney Brian Middleton and office representatives.
Present.
Information Technology Director Robin Dowdy.
Present.
From time to time, other county officials will be asked to identify themselves as the matters arise that impact their respective offices. For clarity and recording purposes, please identify yourself each time you speak.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 2 on the agenda, I'm sure you all have a copy of the agenda, is approved minutes of meeting held on December 18, 2020. Do I have a motion? Or if there is anything need to be changed or any questions, concerns? If you don't hear anything, then do I have a motion?
I so move, Ginyard.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I second the motion.
Okay. Is that Carmen
Turner.
You? Okay.
Carmen Turner.
Okay. I think your camera is still not on. I don't see you.
I believe I had Linda Howell first on the second, so I'm gonna put her down.
Okay, Carmen, that is good. Yeah, go ahead, man. Yeah.
Thank you.
And so, any discussion? Hearing none, I will ask all in favor, say aye. Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, I believe motion passes unanimously. So item number 2 is mentioned here as a review and analyze the Fort Bend County Election Administrator's strategic report and future recommendation that was due on January 18, 2021, and take all appropriate action. With that, so I will ask, do we discuss that first, or we start a motion and then second, then we open up for discussion? Any suggestion from Bridget or somebody from the county attorney's office?
Judge, please restate your question. Are you asking for a?
I'm asking, do I need to have a motion and second, then open up the for discussion, or we could start discussing and then at the end we will take the motion and second?
Make a motion, get a second, open it.
Then open
for discussion, and then after discussion, you're supposed to allow for no longer than 2 minutes, and then after that, put the question, vote.
Okay. Based on our counsel's advice, do I have a motion? From the members of the Fort Bend Election Board. Do I have a motion?
Are you asking for something specific, Judge?
No, I just wanted to have a motion about item number 3.
Well, Judge, would the motion be to review and analyze because there's not an action here other than to review and analyze.
Okay, let's do this. And what I would suggest is let's open up for a review first. And so basically, you're absolutely right. We are not approving the report or not approving the report. It is actually reviewing absolutely and analyzing it. I completely agree with that. Being said that, and I will open up for discussion, and I will invite any conversation from our board members. Yes,
Okay.
Cynthia, please go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, first of all, John, you sent page 12 with this data from 2008 until 2020 on voter registration and voter turnout. Thank you for that. I'll be sharing that with my flock. It's very good to see what has transpired, and we thought we, as an electorate, as a county, went over the top in 2008. Well, we were nowhere near the top, and the voter registration activity as well. So I'm very happy to have that. Those of you who are with my flock, you'll be getting it again. My focus is you had an extensive report that basically certainly gave a foundation for everything. And my focus is specifically what do we do for the elections department moving forward. So the concerns that the department experienced, and I know personnel is one of them. And then I noted that physical space is another one of them. And yes, that room back there has gotten a bit cumbersome. It's amazing. I've always thought it was huge. It's not huge anymore. It's because there's so much activity going on. And I do believe that a poor way of saying it is our elections are not going to get any better in that area. They will continue to be cumbersome and outpouring, especially our major elections. You know, the smaller ones, that's one thing. But when we get to general elections, and then that's a totally different ball game. So in terms of staff, is it a fair question to ask you what you think you might do in that area, or you know, what positions or how what that looks like?
Can I also interject or piggyback on that question, because I had the same question. John, you mentioned you're operating with the same number of staff from 15 years ago. And if you are kindly provided the voter turnout during that time, what happened? 2006, we had only 265,000 registered voters. Out of that, 100,526 voted. And today, we have 488,916 registered voters. Out of that, 924 people voted. That is, you're talking about maybe more than, almost doubling. And of course, the voter turnout is almost tripling comparing 2006. So my question is, John, why did we waited this long to have this conversation about we don't have enough staff?
Well, we really haven't waited this long. I've submitted staff requests before to HR. We did add one employee, and actually I have one more full-time employee than we did in 2008. I have one less part-time employee. This really didn't hit us until we got to this voting system. We were always managed to get through. However, when we switch voting systems, the amount of work involved with this is several times greater than it was with the DRE. We're dealing with paper, as I mentioned, we're dealing with 3 different platforms. We have to program and test the ballot marking devices. We have to program and test the scanners, and also the DRE we used for curbside, as well as the central scanner. Before, we just had 2 platforms to deal with. So, you know, this to some extent caught us by surprise. And just to be perfectly honest, this whole equipment purchase, although I'm thrilled that we got it, I'm very happy with what we have, but it was not well planned. We made a decision. I actually saw this system only 2 times before the county bought it. Once was in about a 40-minute demo, and once was in the public demo that we had. I really thought we were probably going with the HART system, and I favored the HART system until we got pricing from both companies, and you know, a few weeks before we actually made the purchase. So there's a lot of things about this system that normally, in looking at them in greater detail, we would have learned about it. And some of it is the speed, or the lack of speed, and closing polls down, of uploading results, so on and so forth. Now, that being said, I'm still glad, I'm grateful the county got this system. It will serve us well for the next 12 to 15 years. I'm grateful that we saved $4.5 million over what we thought we would spend. However, it's been a learning curve for us, and then we couldn't really do anything with it until after the primary. And it's the fact that it's in Sugar Land and we're here, it doesn't help matters too much either. However, I have asked for staff in the past, and you know, just hasn't made it through the budget process. But that's really been exacerbated by this change in systems, which is far more labor intensive and far more land intensive than what we had in the past. Not so much space in the polling places, but certainly space for delivery and space for warehousing. So that's something I intend to address in the next budget request coming up.
Okay. I just will ask other board members if there is any other questions or follow-up questions on that discussion. Okay, this is my question, if that's the case. First of all, John, I appreciate you. I know that you put together this report, and I appreciate you put together this report, but I don't see any specific recommendation how we are going to be improving in 2022, because that's what I expected to see. Okay, this is what went wrong, and I'm specifically interested in 2020 election. This is what went wrong. And this is what the solution is, and that is what I expected from this report, which is, but you give a fairly basic idea about stuff, and also you mentioned about, you know, some of the issues. So what is next? What is next?
The next thing, I mean, this is the Election Commission's job isn't to plan staffing for my office. That's the HR and Commissioner's Court. So that, you know, what my future staffing needs will be included in the upcoming budget.
Okay. So, but if you don't ask, who is going to know what your needs are, John?
Well, we're working on those needs, but again, that's something that will go into the budget request.
Okay, that's fine.
To me, and if there's a more appropriate way to do that, I can do that.
Yeah, I mean, again, and also you said you only seen this machine for like a couple of times, but you know that you're the expert. We rely on you for your, you know, all feedback or your feeling about the machine. And I believe I did rely on you. And you're saying, based on what I'm hearing, you just mentioned, you know, you didn't anticipate these kind of issues. As far as I'm concerned, very sorry to say this, it is, we did not plan it properly, the rollout. That's what I see it.
You know, the purchase process was hurried. And the county, because it was hurried, the county got a great deal. However, I never saw this system until after the 1st of July. It was not what I thought the county was going to buy. The other 2 members on the committee that you appointed preferred it to the Hart system. And in retrospect, I think that we got a good deal. I like it. The people have been very supportive of us, but it was not a typical purchase of a voting system.
So, but it is still, since we got it, we could have anticipated what our needs are, right? Explain to me otherwise.
Well, we anticipated, we know that it is more labor intensive. We know that it was impossible for us to deliver it, continue delivering. We did not really anticipate some of the issues with shutting down the equipment simply because of the volume. Even the vendor was surprised to some extent at it, because you got to recognize that even though this is used in a lot of places, nobody does early voting like Texas. And really nobody much does it like Fort Bend County. So we had upped the thumb drives in it to try to increase capacity so they wouldn't be filling up. But in doing so, that also doubled our shutdown time from 35 minutes to an hour 10. That's something that happened. Maybe it could have been anticipated, but it was, there's a lot of things that I had no time to manage this election. It's when you are having to do answer 300 emails a day, when you're having to do data entry because we don't have the staff to do it. There's things that you don't plan for, which I don't like, but that's the way it was, and that's what we had to do in this election.
Again, John, I always appreciate what you're doing, but don't you think that's what we're talking about, staffing issue, and that's what we are talking about, because the election is, especially that how partisan and also how intense this election was. See, that is why we are having this conversation moving forward when it comes to 2022 and beyond. We wanted to prepare better, and that's why maybe we are having this conversation. I have more questions, but I open it up to the floor for others. Any of our members wanted to ask any questions?
I do not ask questions necessarily. I never get enough input. John, the things that you're saying you became aware of, and I understand, this whole 2020 thing. Now you add pandemic on top of that. You had new machines, all of that. It just kind of ill, and the staff, and we had to do the best that we could, and of course you have new systems. There are going to be problems. You can't anticipate them because you don't know the system, and so all of that. But I want to focus on going forward. There were several issues that came up during the election because of all of those things that got thrown in your lap as an elections office. And my major interest is us putting in place as a county, be it human resources, financial resources, equipment, people, places, whatever, so that when we come upon a major election again in November 22, we're pretty much smooth sailing, which is what we're used to. So as a person who works closely with elections office, I want us to get back to our smooth sailing, because we were on rough seas in November. Rough seas. How it happened now, they talk about that anymore. We were on rough seas, and we need to get back there. Given this wonderful system we have, and I think it's wonderful, given this wonderful voter registration and turnout, even beyond election day, the voter registration. Well, with the kind of numbers you're showing here, 76,000, when we had 32,000 in 2008, and that was an abnormal year, 2008. That was not normal. I don't even look at 2008 when I'm trying to look at history. 2008 was not normal. It was off the chain, if you will. Well, that was 32,000 plus. Now we were at 76,000 plus voter registrations in Fort Bend County. Okay, so therefore, that process in itself of processing those things and the deputizing and all of that, that seems to be an area to me that we're going to have to beef that up for you somehow, because I just don't understand how the people who handle that, they have actually 100+% more. You know, it doubles, so that's an area that needs to be tapped as well. So that's kind of where I am. You know, and I know you go through the budgeting process with the court and all of that. But I just wanted a framework of, you know, what to be put in place to get you back on a smooth ocean again, because that ocean was rough in 2020, and that's not good for any of us. We don't like it, and you don't like it, and you know, then we're all blown up and puff face and red and blue and green and all of that. So I want us to have our little happy medium again.
Okay. And also, you know, I would, John, I will ask you, knowing what you know, because I thought the report is going to say that, knowing what you know, how many personnel, what kind of space, and what kind of planning is going to solve this problem. And I will kind of start with maybe one of the person played an instrumental role in making the 2020 election possible, our IT director, Robin Dottie. I will ask you, Robin, what do you think moving forward, aside the role John played? You know, he lead the elections, but you're assisting with John's team. What is your thought? How can we run this machine properly, and how can we make sure it doesn't go down, and what kind of planning you anticipate so that 2022 election, we could do it smoothly? Robin?
Okay, thank you, Judge. So one of my suggestions is increasing the number of staff that you have. As you're coming to those big election years, you want to make sure that you have that staff available. I believe John had contract personnel or a contract budget as well. And so I would have utilized that budget to bring more contractors on. For me, I went and had the emergency request in front of court to bring on 30 IT professionals so that we could assist with that. So that's one area that I would increase. But I would also look at the technology as well. I know everybody is saying that the equipment is wonderful, and it really is. It is more electronic and more modern. However, there are issues that we have with it dropping and losing connections. And so I would go back to the vendor and I would hold them accountable for resolving those issues well in advance of the next election. No matter if that election is small or large, the vendor is responsible for resolving all of those issues. So those are the two main points. You have to look at the equipment, and you have to look at the resources, the human resources that you have available.
And also, John, your report said our vendor said, the moving forward, the software updates will address some of this problem, but there is no time, or there is no when they will do that kind of thing is not mentioned in the report. And so I completely agree with Robin. Any thoughts on that, John?
Well, what vendor are you talking about?
You mentioned about the machine.
I think I referred to some updates being made to the voting system. That's a certification issue. For example, we are going to upgrade the batteries. There was a lot of concern about the improper time being displayed on the express vote, which really had no effect on the election, but you were concerned about that. That is going to require, and apparently the clock chip battery in these machines, ES&S got some that didn't last as long as they anticipated. Typically, these things last about 5 years. These lasted about 2 or less. We're going to replace those clock chip batteries on the week of March 23rd. Actually, the vendor had to go back for certification to create a sort of a holder that'll clip into the board where the clock chip battery goes, that will then allow them to insert a larger battery, which they think will last 5 to 7 years. So that's being addressed. However, that was something they just can't do it. That's a modification to a system, and they had to get that certified. Also, beginning on the 23rd, they're going to start training us on maintenance, which I'm not sure how much we'll be able to do with our staff, but if you and Robin wants to assist with elections, this would be a great thing for her to have people at, so that they learn the machines and they learn how to service the machines. So we can have that assistance there.
John, it is not about me and Robin wanted to get involved with your activity. It is about you to request what really you need. And so another question is, we are constantly hearing about staffing issues. So did you request any time in the past to the commissioners for more staffing and you were denied, or any record of it? Because I like to know this, because moving forward, when you are requesting more staff, we need to make sure your request is properly handled.
Yeah, I do go through procedures and go to HR with appropriate forms. Now, this past year, when we were doing the budget for FY 2021, we were told there would be no new staff allowed. That was a directive. So I tried to follow that directive. We try to play by whatever rules are set. Now and at that point in time, still, I did not realize how labor intensive this system was going to be. I've been working in this stuff since 1974, but I've never worked with a hybrid system before. It is new to voters. It's new to county. It was new to me. And in light of in the middle of a pandemic, when your vendor has issues doing hands-on training because of travel restrictions, when you're doing a lot of things by Zoom or other, there's things that you just don't catch or you don't realize until you're actually using it in real time. And we ran a very good election in July. However, that election was 70,000 voters, and we didn't have any issues. We didn't experience any issues.
No.
And I completely agree with that's the very reason why you mentioned about 2020 and 21 budget year. But there is also, your report says from 2005 you are working with the same number of staff, and there are 14 different budget requests and season. And so, what kind of action have taken there? That's my question. And if the Commissioner's Court was not ready to approve your request, we need to know that, because it is not, we cannot go and talk to the public and saying that, oh, we don't want to give people to run a fair election.
Well, I don't know about, I thought I said since 2008, because I really don't know about 2005.
Okay, 2008 is fine. I mean, still, I just mentioned about the number, 265,000 registered voters. Now we have 488, and next election come, it is going to be more than 550,000 registered voters, I'm calculating. And so what, I mean, this is a question we have to ask, John, because, I tell you, there are numerous parties came together, whether somebody like it or not. That was the only reason why we were able to perform this election in 2020 in a fair manner and, without too much problem. But there was problems all across the board. It is a learning experience for us, but we cannot have another learning experience. That is the problem. That is need to be fixed and moving forward. That's what I'm talking about, because it is hard for us to go talk to our citizens saying that, we didn't know. I mean, it is not I cannot tell them. So what is your thought?
My thought is that in the budget request this year, I will be requesting appropriate personnel.
Okay.
Now, one of the other problems we have is we want to take somebody with a technical background and pay them like a typist in this county. I've lost people over the years because we
Yeah.
want to pay somebody with a high skill level $29,000.
Yeah.
And it doesn't-
John, I completely agree with you. That's where you have to stand up with your leadership, because I see that problem in Fort Bend County. Nobody wanted to pay anybody, and people go wherever they get paid better. I mean, our county is not 52,000 people, like the way we had in 1970. Now we have 850,000 people. We are going to have 1 million people by next 2 years. So we are no more a little baby county anymore. We have to pay people. That's the only way we can hire good people. And coming back to another question, the IT side, I talked to Robin, and of course there is another side, the security and planning and things of that nature was done by our Honorable District Attorney Brian Middleton. I will ask him what is his thought on not the technical aspect of it, the planning and conducting an election in a very fair and acceptable manner for the people of this county. So what is your thought? I mean, your team learned a lot. Brian, if you go ahead and explain it, that would be wonderful.
I just want to make sure I understand the question you're asking. You're asking, prospectively in the future, or about a comment about the past? I'm just trying to clarify.
No, not the past. I mean, we had issues, we had problems, we fixed it, and we somehow conducted the election. And based on what we learned, that was a question I also asked Robin, also the IT person. And your team learned a lot of stuff we could do better in the next election or beyond, 2022, 2024, and beyond. So what is your team's recommendation? What is your thought? Because we cannot go to our citizens and say, I didn't know, I didn't plan it properly. So that is the reason why we are doing it, this conversation.
Okay. Well, I mean, certainly, what's patently clear is that the elections department is severely understaffed. There storage problems, but there's also evidently some management issues that need to be addressed. Clearly, I don't think it's the procedure of the county for Human Resources Department to propose positions for departments. And so maybe that's something that needs to be clarified with the elections administrator. But, we're each responsible for our own staff in every department and proposing to Commissioners Court what we need. So certainly that should be clarified and dealt with in the future. But, clearly there needs to be a lot more staff at the elections office, and they need a centralized location to store equipment such that, you don't have equipment being brought from different locations. You can have a better inventory process. And it's just the centralization of the whole process is what needs to be achieved. So we've got a long way to go. And unfortunately, it's going to require the county spending money, but that's what I see. That the county needs to keep up with the growth that it's experienced.
Okay. And also, go ahead, Carmen, please go ahead, Carmen Turner.
Miss Cynthia was first. She can go first, and I can go right after her. It's up to her.
Whatever. John, I suggest you come up with your dream plan. If you could have it any way you want it, what would it be? Because with the needs that we have, and something that we haven't mentioned that we probably need to incorporate, and is security. I know the DA provided a lot of that this time and all of that. I don't know how that works, whether that's on them or whatever, but I don't think anybody on this Zoom lives with their head in a hole. And I'm just a straight up real kind of girl, and this violence and antagonism is out there as it relates to voting in elections, and I don't see it going away. It may not be, the severity of it will fluctuate, but that is something to keep in mind. We had some security at sites this time that was something new. We've never had to do that before. So that's something else that may be on the horizon. That's something arose just like some of those issues you had, John. It's like, what? You didn't realize until the week election, before the election or early voting, that you may have even needed that kind of thing. So I would like you to do an outline, and I don't have anything to do with it, an outline of what's your dream plan to address these issues, because given what I'm hearing, it may not be able to be done in one fiscal year. So like anything else, you've got to build it, and maybe it's a 3-year plan of what you're going to add, or as many as you want to add. And so that, we can start this process. Like I said, nothing is diminishing here in terms of population process, voting, and all of that. People have come alive, and they're going to be out there. And of course, that's our job. That's what we do. We want them out there. So we don't help make that any better. So I would suggest that. So when you go to Commissioner's Court, I don't know why HR trying to tell you how many staff members you can have. I mean, business is business, and I don't know what the heck they have to do with it. They don't have the budget, okay?
Absolutely.
Really, I'm sorry, Cynthia. HR basically approves a position. It's also budget office, and I admire the work the budget office does. I think they do a great job, but they have constraints, and so when they say to me, no new positions, I take that at its word.
But let me tell you, John, there's a lot of people heard there is no new position, but still they got the new position they're looking for. Not all what they want, but whatever they are looking for. And I just tell you, and also I just wanted to add here, the last election commission meeting, our request was to put together your budget or your restructuring process together. And we haven't gotten that. You said you will be requesting for people and, and things of that nature. But again, one of the problem I am continuing to see that there is no specific clarity in our conversation. And that is a problem I see. And if I'm going to budget office or I'm going to talk to somebody about, hey, I want these people, one person, 2 person, whatever that is, and these are the specifications, this is what I need, this is what they will be doing, and or space or whatever that may be. See, you got to come up with some specific details. And that's where we could go and negotiate or talk to these budget office and people like that. So I didn't see that as part of your report.
No, because my recollection was you asked for a report on the past election, not going forward. I may have misinterpreted that, but bear in mind too, if, for example, the last meeting we had, I wasn't even privileged to see Brian's report that everybody was talking about until a couple of days after. I'm a little bit in the dark on some of this. So,
that is, if that happened, that is not fair to you, and I completely agree. Brian, you have anything to say?
Yeah, John, you know what was in that report because you were part of the report. You were by us at every minute, so you have personal knowledge of everything that was in that report. So nothing in that report should have been a surprise to you. And
well, I didn't necessarily agree with everything in the report, but again, I had not seen it. I wasn't privileged to see it before it was discussed at the last meeting, and that's okay. I can live with that. However, my interpretation.
Let's be clear. I don't want you to mislead anybody.
I'm not misleading.
That report was sent out shortly before the last meeting, so you were not disadvantaged.
I did not receive it until a couple of days after the meeting.
Well, it was sent to you. If you chose not to look at it, that's you. But I don't want you to mislead the public and leave the perception that somehow you were left out of what that report contained. You actually helped us in completing that report, and you were provided with a copy of it. And the other thing that I want to be clear is that the budget process requires the department head to submit get the positions approved by HR, and ultimately your budget is submitted to the budget office for their approval. If
I
it's
fully
not
understand
approved
that.
to the budget office, then it's submitted to the commissioner's court. So it is incorrect to say that the HR department is responsible for your staff. It's a process, and
It
you
is a
ultimately
process.
weren't responsible for it. So hopefully you weren't trying to mislead anybody by
I'm not trying to mislead. However, I have been shot down in the past on both reclassifications and new positions by HR. So that never goes to budget. We'll give it another try this year.
So you're telling the public that HR is the person that denied your budget request?
Not my budget request. HR has denied personnel requests. Now, I'm not saying I put it in every year. I did not put in one last year because I was told that we had an issue. I did put in one the year before, and I did receive it. However,
what did you request that was denied? The creation of a position?
Now the request I put in for creation of a position, actually creating a full-time out of a part-time, was in the FY 2020 budget year, and I did receive that.
Okay. And I think obviously we all started saying that this whole discussion is how we can move forward, improve. And I just wanted to read the motion or the request last meeting we put together is we asked the election administrator to provide a full report on 2020 general election issues experienced, and also the detailed listing of steps, including scheduled audit of the system, to ensure similar errors do not happen again. It is requested to be submitted to the Elections Commission within 30 days, January 18, 2021. What happened in the past, what was learned, what issues were experienced, and what steps are going to be taken to address these issues. That was the motion. So obviously, John, it was requested. I don't know.
Was that a motion or was that just something you said? Because I don't recall any action by the commission.
It's actually reported. But anyway, so the point, all I'm trying to say is that we don't want to make this meeting possibly more than 1 hour. This is all new experience to you too. Since 2008, maybe the first election commission meeting you attended was last election commission meeting. So we never focused on these issues, and we are going to focus moving forward with that. I know that our Honorable Carmen Turner is waiting for asking questions or some discussion. Carmen, please go ahead.
And my question was just, I understand with the pressure that John is under. We just had a pressure situation for us, and the tax season just ended on February 1st, and we had to work closely with the IT department, and they helped us get through it. So we can't make any excuses for what's going on right now. We can't make excuses for what happened in the past. What are we going to do about it right now? And the report that I seen from Brian Milliton and the report I seen from Robin were very thorough, very, very thorough about everything that went on. Now I want to know, what are we going to do about the problem, like Miss Cynthia Skinyard just said? What is your wish list, and why is it not in this report right now? Because this is the most important election that we're getting ready to come up on, and I wouldn't want what happened in the past to happen now. Are you trying? Because I had to go to Commissioner's Court myself, as you know, Judge KP George. I had to come there myself, and I had to get 3 or 4 new employees, and they allowed me to do it. I had to go through personnel. I had to go through budget. I had to go through all those different departments to get what I needed to get done for this tax season. And we can't make excuses. We have to do something about it now. So what are we going to do about it right now, John? That's the only thing I'm concerned with.
Well, as I indicated,
how many new employees are you trying on your wish list? What are we trying to do right now?
I will be submitting a budget request for 2 additional technical people. We we depend upon temps a lot for data entry. Some of them very good. I've had two that are going away on Friday. I wish they weren't, but they have other things to do. But we use them for a lot for data entry. But for my technical equipment, for maintenance of the equipment, for prep of the equipment, I've got to get somebody trained on how to code because, this May election is going to take minimally probably 2 weeks.
John, I have,
to do
sorry
that.
to-
So these are things that if I want to manage, I've got to have other people.
yeah,
doing this.
John, sorry to interrupt you. Let's put it this way. I don't think we are going to find a solution for that discussion right now. And, Honorable Carmen Turner's, excuse me. The question is very well acknowledged. And I think, John, you have to put together your needs. And I have to ask the county attorney, if anybody here, is that information, when John put it together, is that okay to share it with the election commission board members? Where is, I don't see, is Bridget or anybody here? Hello?
She's
Hello,
still
Dan.
here. Name.
Justin, yeah, my question is, see, we are going to ask John. He got to put together when it comes to the personal, when it comes to other needs, maybe space and things of that nature, to conduct the next election of a 2020 caliber, what he needs to conduct that and what kind of plan. And this time, John, I like to see, and I'm sure all of us like to see a clear, plan put together and who you're going to be utilizing. IT is here and other resources are with the county. It is available if you need to get other resources from outside, but you have to spell it out. You have to spell it out. Okay, this is what I need. This is what I need. Things of that nature. So, Bridget, when John come up with that specific information, is that okay to share it with the board members? Hey, this is what I came up with, or you have to call another meeting to share that?
When we come up with a report, we can provide it to this board for review.
For review.
Yes, for review. We'll make sure that it complies with all federal and state regulations, but also more importantly, that the local members of this board approve the same for this next election cycle. So we'll internally come up with a deadline. If we have any input or suggestions from the committee, we'll welcome that so that it's something that reflects the decision of the body and not just a decision of just one particular office.
And also, Cindy Ginia rightfully mentioned, you have to put together your, if you have no limitation, what does it look like? And then we will work from there. And so, John, anyway, you have to prepare that report for the budget season. So how long it take you to do that? 10 days, 15 days? Give us a time frame to come up with that plan.
Well, in terms of space, I pretty much spelled that out. I think we need 70 to 75,000 square feet of space under one roof. And that could be driven by whether or not we conduct early voting and use our office as a polling place or whether it remains here in this building. We need a minimally 2 more people involved in equipment technicians.
John, you don't have to tell me. I don't want to hear it like
That's
casually right now. And you have to put it on the paper saying that, okay, I want this, these are the positions I'm requesting, and this many space, and this is the resource I need to conduct a 500,000 people, registered voters county. This is how I run that election in 2022 or 2024 or whatever. And so how long it take you to come up with, can you come up with that specific, not like you wrote a report here, thank you for that, but it got to be spelled out. So can you do it in 10 days, 15 days, 20 days? Give us a time frame.
Because that's about the time frame for submitting new requests and reclassifications to HR.
I'm just saying you have to do that anyway. So this report is, an extension of it. That's what I'm trying to say.
And Judge, if I could just add something, John. One thing, I don't know how much sense that it makes. I know you have to use several part-time people, which you referred to a minute or two ago. Those critical functions, I would like to see, however it happens, that those become full-time personnel who are there all the time. And you probably have found people that you like who work really well. You probably got some that they don't come back again. You're okay with that. That's how it goes. But you know what you need, and I don't. So you tailor that. And so maybe you use the word coding, and heaven knows I don't know what that means. But maybe that's not something that's needed all the time, but it is needed as we go down to an election time. Well, build in other functions that individual can be doing if coding is something that is not required a lot of until we approach an election. So I want you to build in permanent staff for what you need. And then when the rubber hits the road into an election, you say, well, gosh, we're still kind of smothered here, and I need to bring on some part-time people or some temporary people. You bring them on, but I want these people your additions to be a part of your elections office with the duties, responsibilities, and privileges of any full-time staff member, because I think it makes a difference.
I appreciate that, Cynthia. One of the reasons not only our election office, but a lot of them throughout the country depend upon part-time is because of the cyclical nature.
Yeah.
In the last few years, we've had lots of elections in off years, but historically, you have a couple elections in off years, and so it didn't make sense to have full-time people who didn't really have a lot to do. That's kind of changing because we've had so many special elections, but this is something faced by election offices throughout the country. You have peaks and troughs, and
I bet
there's days when 9 full-time people is more than we need. But I try to be a good steward.
I think the paradigm is shifting, and you're right about that. I agree 100%. Not just for Fort Bend, but for several offices who do the same thing. And I think the paradigm is shifting, and I think you got the numbers to prove it, that we've arrived in a new place now.
Yeah.
And we've got to build better, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of our people and our functions, like I said, one thing that wasn't elections was voter registration. You're going to tell those people who've been doing it in 2008 are still doing it, and the voter registration activity has doubled. Now, you can't tell me that's okay, John. You're just making do is what you're doing. You're making do, and it's not okay.
Yeah, and also I just will ask one more other things to Robin. Robin, do you consider maybe having a couple of people, or 1 person, 2 person, maybe when they are not engaged with the election, but they are expert on the machines and stuff like that? So do you consider to have maybe a couple of positions under you, but they are dedicated to election technical support and things of that nature as either full-time or part-time? What is your thought on that?
So absolutely, I would suggest and recommend having staff dedicated solely to elections under IT, whether that's 2, 5, or however many that we would need, but they would be focused on that. And then when you have that quiet time during election, then they would be shifted to the 70 plus other departments and offices in Fort Bend County that we assist, and the other projects and different events that we have going on. So those 2 to 5, however many staff personnel, they would consistently be busy. It wouldn't be
Okay.
part-time. It wouldn't be for certain events. It would be year-round.
Okay. And so, okay, let's conclude this discussion. I will ask, one more thing. John, you didn't tell me how soon you would be able to come up with a clear blueprint. This is what I need based on where we are today. And so is that possible you could finish something like that in 15 days by today's third by 18th or 20th of this month?
I believe so.
Okay. And so let's make that
Excuse me.
part of
Oh, excuse me. I want to speak before you close the meeting.
Yeah, no, we are not going to, definitely I will come back and give an opportunity
Okay.
to everybody. Yeah, absolutely, please. So what I would like to see, our note reflect that by creating a blueprint of moving forward the personnel and other election commission's needs, a report with clarity. What actually John needs to be send it to the board members on or before 2/20, and that means February 20th. This should have clarity, and also it's only going to help you to work with the budget office and all the same thing. And so we like to see it, and once we learn and understand about that, then based on the requirement, we could call the meeting. And now I will open it up for other members to respond. I will go with Republican Party Chair Linda Howell.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for this detailed report, John. 12 pages front and back. So I appreciate the work that you have put into this. The insight. Thank you for the future report that you'll be presenting to us. I have found this meeting interesting because we have asked our election administrator the same question over and over and over, and he has answered our question. I think that a question I have is, it seems that this committee seems to have gone possibly beyond the scope of us interrogating a staff member with the county. John has said that he will produce what we have asked. It seems that his questions are actually directed to the commissioner's court and the budget process, not to us. So I think I'm surprised at the hostility that I have sensed in this meeting toward the elections administrator. Fort Bend County was the 3rd highest voting county in Texas. We had problems at the beginning. It was horrendous. There were lots of obstacles. We added the Smart Financial Center. So of course I don't think it's surprising that we experienced some problems. Were they intentional? No. So I guess my question is, ask a professional to questions. He has said that he will report and ask the commissioner's court for the budget and the personnel, which I'm assuming they will provide for him. I have not heard of problems since the election of people complaining that it was the worst election held in the state of Texas, which after hearing this conversation, you would think that that has happened. So let me just say, moving forward, the election process, of course, can be streamlined with every election. It's obvious his office needs personnel and budget. He probably needs a raise for what he's been through. But I'm just saying, I'm thankful that we have a great election administrator who has worked fairly with both parties. I think we should let him do his job, provide provide him what he needs and expect that that is going to happen and quit drilling him in public over and over with the same question. So it's our job to make sure we have a good election. That's why we're all here. We want it to be fair. We want people to not have problems voting. We want to increase voting, and I am going to say I have the confidence that's going to happen as we move forward, and I hope that our election administrator is given the same respect and confidence that I think he deserves. So I think that's it. Thank you, John, for the report. Thank you. We all survived the election. I hope our next one is not as hot. I think that was the most miserable of physical circumstances, but thank you for the report. I look forward to your future report and your request, and I hope they're granted by the Commissioner's Court.
Thank you, Linda.
Anybody else wanted to make any statement, comments? Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Judge, I just wanted to clarify something that you said. I believe you said his report was due, did you mention February 20th?
February 20th.
That is a Saturday, sir.
Oh, next Monday, following
Monday.
Following Monday, yeah.
We will put that in the minutes then.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you. Any other members wanted to make any statement? Carmen Turner, Cynthia Ginyard, anybody? No,
Yes,
go
this
ahead.
is Carmen. The only thing we're asking for is, I mean, we're not trying to drill anybody. We just need something to be done. We have a brand new election coming up. We're not trying to point fingers, but we definitely have to be accountable for what goes on in our office. So we're not trying to drill anybody. We just want to make sure that we have a new election coming up and everything is done properly and we have what we need to get it done. I just went through that. Just like I said, IT department helped me. We just have to get up and ask for help when we need it. That's all we're asking for. We're not trying to drill.
Cynthia, you have any comments?
Yes, in closure, as I said, come up with your plan, John, of what you need, whether you get it or not. I always say ask. You know, I shoot for the stars, so if I fall short, at least I'm still among the celestial bodies and not on the ground. So maybe you can have everything you need. It just can't be done in one cycle. You know, it's like, okay, we'll get this part this fiscal year. You won't be. That's what I had to do when I was an administrator. I could never buy everything I needed in 1 year. I had to do it in segments. So that may be the case, especially if you start talking about buildings. And we want your office to work well because we're all connected to it. Well, you know how I'm connected to it. I want it to be efficient. I want it smooth sailing, like it has always been. And you know that you and I have good times working together, you know, and when I call, you answer and you listen to all of my whatever. So that's what I want. And no, Chairwoman Howell, we are not trying to do anything to John or grill him. We had some hurdles and we want him to have a smooth sailing ship like he's always had. Thank you. I'm done, Judge George.
Okay, thank you. With that, we conclude here, and if anyone about this meeting, if they misunderstood as hostile or going after somebody, and that is not the purpose. I wanted to be very clearly mention that. We just wanted to, I had numerous people, press, calling me about these things. Unfortunately or fortunately, we are the elected members. John gets calls, but we get more calls because we are elected members. And so I had a hard time answering them. So that's the reason why we are trying to fix something. We feel like we have a lot of room for improving and fixing. And I don't know that is called hostility. I'm very sorry to hear that. But And I appreciate each and every member's participation, taking the time, busy time from their busy schedule to participate this. This is a practice. Once we get the report and things of that nature, we will, I don't know, maybe once in 3 months or 6 months or whatever, we will inform you based on the needs. But it is always good to have this conversation. There is nothing can come out of it. We are just learning and understanding, moving forward, how we are going to do it. But one thing is so clear: when something goes wrong, the last thing you wanted to tell them is, oh, we didn't have enough personnel, or we didn't plan it properly, so we couldn't do our election right. And that is something, it doesn't fit right with anybody who is we are looking to convince. So I just wanted to say thank you. With that, thank you for taking the time, each and every one of you, to be part of this. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a
So
motion.
move, and I'll second.
Okay, so with no objection, this meeting of the Fort Bend County Election Commission is adjourned, and we will communicate with the members as and when it is another meeting going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, everybody.
Good evening, everybody.